There's a place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.
Right there, Camp McIntosh.
Yes, you are right, Mikey. That is Camp McIntosh, and it is coming up later on in the year, September 23rd to the 27th. Love to have you there. And as I said, things are starting to pack up. We're actually starting to fill some cabins almost to capacity. So as I said, if you are interested in either one of our CFN retreats, whether it be Camp McIntosh or, of course, Horwood Lake Lodge, there are still 2 beds available at Horwood. Unfortunately, the Ugly Boys family is not going to be with us this year, as they announced they're going to be moving to Saskatchewan. So there are 2 beds available, and we are going to incentivize you folks that do attend our CFN retreats in a very special way with some very special CFNers. One in particular, which we announced, I think it was last week, Jim Wilson has stepped up and has offered up a day out on the water from fishhawk.net. Most likely you'll be targeting salmon, but at the end of the day, we will leave it up to Jim to see what you're going to be doing, what kind of fish you're going to be targeting, and whatnot. But I want to thank Jim for stepping up. And the latest is Jay Chapasecki, and Chapesky. I'm hoping I'm saying that right, Jay. I'm so sorry if I'm not. But this gentleman who took out our good buddy Richard Dunlop and his grandson had an epic day. He's been posting quite frequently in recent days with some of his other outings. Very productive angler, a very productive guide, and very productive charter captain. So he too is going to be offering up a prize pack for anyone who goes to a CFN retreat. So whether you go to Horwood or whether you go to Camp McIntosh, we're going to be giving 2 of these away to 2 special CFNers. So all you have to do is go to a CFN retreat. Love to have you, and we're going to make it worth your while. Nonetheless, we always do with the fish off that goes on at these events. How we doing, folks? Nice to have you along. It is a Monday. It's certainly starting to heat up here in the east. I'm hoping it's starting to heat up in the west as well. Last time I checked with Walter, I think he was getting snow in the backyard. So, yeah, about that. I'd like to say summer is here. At least I want to hope so. Eve, is summer here for you, pal? Thanks again for all your sharing. Really appreciate it. There is the one and only Steve Shawsome. Nice to have you along, Steve. Thanks again for all you do behind the scenes. We have been extremely busy in CFN land, as we will get to, with some really remarkable initiatives that I'm really, really proud of, and I'm really proud to be. I'm really proud to have CFN a part of it. We will get to all that. Steve's in the house. How you doing, Steven? Nice to have you along. Jeremy Parker. There's another one, man. I tell you, you share dude. You're amazing. I can't thank you enough, and CFN can't thank you enough either. Pete LeDuc's in the house. How you doing, Pete? Nice to have you along. There's Tony. Always a pleasure to have you as well. Joe Vitani. Nice to have you as well. CFNers, beautiful day. Finally, you got that right. Richard Dunlop's in the house. As always, one of our biggest sharers, and does a lot to pump CFN's tires and at least spread the message. I want to thank him for all he does as well behind the scenes. Mark Wolf, I believe you, my friend, were one of the first to order one of the CFN bump boards from Go Large Fish Ruler, and I want to thank you for that. So you're all ready to go for the Conquer Challenge. We'll be talking about that momentarily. Lloyd, always a pleasure to have you. There's Gary De Silva. How you doing, buddy? Good evening to you as well, my friend. Nick's in the house as well. How you doing, Nick? Nice to have you along. Is that a flounder you got there? You're holding there? Nice fish, buddy. Nice fish. It's on the way. That's good to hear, buddy. Cox Ben's in the house too. Nice to have you as well. Okay, We got to move along because there's a lot to talk about again. But I want to thank Jim Wilson, of course, Jay, for offering up these prize packs to our CFN retreaters. That's a big deal, and we can't thank you two enough for helping out when it comes to booking these wonderful establishments like you are. So, as Mark mentioned, of course, it is coming up this weekend, May 30th. It starts. It's the Conquer All Challenge, and it is sponsored by Shimano. Prizes are already downstairs. They're all ready to go. Small fish, big prizes. And we're looking forward to giving 5 of the Compre walleye rods away. At the end of it all, it'll be 5 random giveaways. The more of the ballots, the better chances to win. Each species, each day counts as 1 ballot. You can catch multiple species. You can only submit 1 species per day to obtain 1 ballot. So you can catch all 11 species, or 12 species it is. But unfortunately, you're only able to cast 1 ballot per day per species. So that will limit a little bit, but as I said, it will hopefully get folks fishing. And again, it starts May 30th, goes right to Canada Day. So we're looking forward to seeing a lot of submissions. And with those submissions, if you catch one of your species and enter a ballot with a Shimano Compre, so that means if you have a Compre already and you catch a fish with that Compre, you get entered into the video draw. And with that, you will not only win a Compre rod, but a Mirabel reel. And we also have the Hero Shot. This is something that is very similar, or you would be used to it when it comes to the CFN Fish Off. We have Hero Shots. All you have to do is show your Shimano. And that means you could have anything: rods, reels, hats, shirts, knives, towels, anything. If it has Shimano on it, make sure it's part of the video and you get entered into the Hero Shot. So as I said, if you win this, you not only win a Compre rod, but a Vanford reel to go along with it. So as I said, this starts on the 30th. The only place you have to go now, you can go to www.cfnfishoff.com, or why not go straight to Angler's Atlas, and you can upload and get registered there. So go to Angler's Atlas, go to the MyCatch app, download the MyCatch app, and you will see this there, the Compre Conquer All Challenge. Click on it, and you register. And it's so simple. So here we go. First question. So to get full points a day, you would need to catch every species. Bingo. Well done. So I explained it. Coxman, thanks so much. I'm sometimes I'm not sure if I'm doing a proper job explaining it, but you just said that I was. So I appreciate that. Oh, that's cool, Nick. That is so cool from the 2023 Fish Off. Really, really cool. As I said, looking forward to seeing all the submissions. It starts very, very soon. We'll be talking about it on a Wednesday. Hopefully, Mike will be able to join us because there is lots to discuss, lots to go over. And why not find out a little bit more about the Compre rod from one of our CFN legacy members, Erica Beeler.
Okay.
Hello. So my husband purchased me this Compre rod at the beginning of the season. It's medium light and fast action, and it is an amazing fishing rod. One of my favorites that I've ever owned so far. I've caught lots of bass, catch and release, and multiple walleye so far, and it feels fantastic. Like I can't tell you how much I love this fishing rod. And I also caught a nice lake trout that was 6 1/4 pounds. Felt so incredible on this fishing rod. And I just wanted to say, if you wanted to win one of these rods, I highly recommend you join the
Compre Conquer All Challenge.
And you can go to the Canadian Fishing Network page. I'm probably going to post a link below. And just join it, and you have a chance at winning one of these rods. And have a great day. Fish on!
Thanks, Erica, for helping us out there. As I said, they are an incredible rod, probably my favorite walleye rod, and I look forward to picking up one of the newer ones because the old one, two-piece, is so sensitive. But yeah, highly recommend it. But again, thanks so much to Erica and Mark for putting that together. One last announcement before we bring on Big Jim. The folks, the great folks, and I can't emphasize this enough, the fantastic folks, spectacular folks at Go Large Fish Ruler wanted me to announce that there are currently right now, I believe, 10 36-inch CFN bump boards available for purchase. Mark's purchased one, Tony's purchased one. There's a bunch of others that have purchased one, so if I've forgotten or didn't mention you, I apologize. But I just want you to know they are $60, and that includes the custom emblem. So there's no additional cost for the emblem, and best part, no tax. So $60 is all you pay. And as I said, Randy and Ron will make sure that you get this, at least during the competition, but more so you will have it so that whenever we have a CFN fish off or Compare Conquer All Challenge again, or any other kind of event that bump board is required, these will be made available. And they are, so the 36 inches are available right now. I believe Randy said he has 10. So make sure you reach out to info@golargefishruler.com and make sure you have one set aside for you. I know Lawrence has to get going, so I don't want to waste any more time. If there are any announcements that I have missed, forgive me. I sincerely apologize. But we need to move on, and it's time to bring on the one and only Big Jim.
When he was born, he tried to reel in the umbilical cord. Bass named him as their personal best. His power pole came with a stripper. Forward-facing sonar uses him to find fish. Chuck Norris is his co-angler. He is the most interesting fisherman in the world. Stay fishing, my friends.
There he is, the one and only Big Poppy. How you doing, Big Poppy?
Good buddy, yourself.
Well, if I was any better, I'd be you, my friend.
You got to do up those buttons, Scotty. I already told you.
You know, it's hot in here. I'm sorry, Jim. It's freaking hot in here.
I'm getting moist.
Am I showing too much cleavage? Is that what it is?
I was riding them pretty good. I got to say one thing. I love Erica's sneakers and her assistant coming in with the line like that. That was cool.
It's how we do it. It's a team effort here at CFN, and as I said, a wheel would not spin if it didn't have many cogs in it, and we're lucky to have a whole host of them that keeps the wheels of CFN spinning. But I appreciate that, Jim. Nonetheless, with that being said, of course, I don't know where to begin with you because there's so much that I wanted to talk about and get to. I'm not really sure where you want to start, but I did want to mention something, and I know you want to mention this as well. Peter Lamar's kids event goes on this weekend at the start of our Compare Conquer All Challenge. And I know he would love to know that we're pumping the tires of this event because it is a really cool event. They had I think it was an issue last year with the weather, right, Jim?
It was horrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I'm not kidding. It was like a mid-March day.
Well, I know there's going to be a couple CFNers that show up to help out with Peter. I know Steven, who's watching tonight, is one of them. And again, thanks so much for supporting the rest of our wonderful community because events like this, initiatives like this, certainly need the support of everyone.
Yeah, Peter does a great job. I think this is the last year he's doing this one, the particular one. And
yeah.
He's going to move over to the other things that he's doing. I can't make it this year because I already signed up to go to the Beckwith tackle swap and do the kids thing there, and I didn't even realize it wasn't in my mind. So I could only be one place at a time. So, and the problem is that one's all day and one's Peter's is basically more in the morning type thing.
Right.
I should just go for the beginning. So it'll be all good. Yeah, Peter, I see Jeff mentioning about the kids tournament there. The kids had a great time, so it was really, really cool.
And this is the thing, a big shout out to Peter, and of course, yourself. But you I don't even know how to say it, but you guys, you are pillars of the community, and you have done more to get kids fishing than I think anybody else. So big tip of the hat, and of course, all of us like Jeff, like Steven, like a bunch of us, we all follow in your footsteps in trying to emulate and at least come close to mirroring some of the hard work that you've done to get folks fishing. Because as I said, not enough of that can be done these days. That's for sure. So wish Peter luck this weekend. And then next weekend, if I'm not mistaken, the following weekend is another event that I'm sure you're pretty familiar with, Jim. That's right. There we go. Sealy's
Boom
Bay.
shakalaka.
Yeah. Looking forward to this. As I said, it will be a memorable Saturday, as it always is. What I really love, and it's the middle picture there, is all the volunteers that come out for this, Jim. Sometimes, especially in the morning, there's more volunteers than there are kids.
Right off the bat,
yeah. But
I think just about everybody that normally comes is coming.
Cool.
I think one of the guys at Gord Routcliffe's trying to get off work, but he's got to work, so obviously you got to go to work,
Yeah.
It is, eh? But we got Peppy there. He's on a wait list for a quad bypass, and he's coming. So I told him when I was talking to him the other day, I said, I already got the jumper cables, and we'll hook it up to the Chev if need be. He was laughing.
That's hilarious. Well, as I said, we usually have at least 50 kids that show up to this. There's a huge pile of toys that are given out at the end of the event, but nonetheless, kids don't go away without something and always a smile. And they look forward to it.
I'm going to go over next week with Constable Joey from the OPP over in Brockville, the Canadian Tire, because I just have them send the grant money for the prizes to him.
Mm-hmm.
He fills out the form instead of it coming to the association in town here, and then everything's got to have receipts, and it's a pain in the butt. So the money goes right to him and never touches my hands. He buys the prizes. He's good buddies with the guy that owns the Canadian Tire in Brockville, so shout out to him, and he gets him we get a lot more than $500 worth of stuff, as you see there, to give out. So,
dude, it's a pile of stuff. It's incredible, and there's always it's awesome to see.
Yeah, Scotty, it's cool. I was just explaining. I was talking to Rob Walton from Pure Fishing today, and he offered obviously anything you need for kids, things and that, whatever. I'm happy to help you, Jim. And I said to him, I said, whatever I don't give out at the Sportsman Show comes back here, and whatever I don't give out here of what we gather goes to the Sportsman Show next year. So it's just a cycle around. Plus all the things I do, like on Saturday here when I go over to the Beckwith Tackle Swap, which is done through Bait Casters with Crystal there. I'll have a bunch of stuff there to give to the little ones. They got the bass clubs coming out to let the kids do casting. They got little metal fish with a magnet on the rod for the kids to fish in the little pond. They're going to bring one of those little swimming pools for the little kids, and fill it up. She's got a big tent outside, so if it rains, you can still do it. So it's cool. She's done a good job. She's already got, I think, 30 or 35 tables inside, and she's got a bunch outside too under one of the tents, the bigger ones, the guys that want it. And then I was talking to Rob from Dominate Baits this morning.
Nice.
Down in Gan, and we sat and had a coffee. And I told him, I said, why don't you come sell your baits at the tackle swap? He said, you think I could get a table? It's awful late. I said, well, call her. So he called her right there. And then I was talking to her later in the day. She said, yeah, he took two tables. So he's going to be there flogging his stuff. So guys will be able to get the old, 20 Senkos for 25 bucks. Jeff Porches said, no, he could tell. But it's a great deal. And I mean, it's just coming to bass season. Guys are going to be looking for that. But it was cool this morning. He gave me some of his new forward-facing sonar minnows. And some of the colors on these things. And see, this is one of the things people don't realize. They like little things that make the difference. See those little flukes on the tip? It's the same thing that's on the Depths minnow. And this color here, that's actually purple. It's going to show up blue there. But see, they've got the gold in it too.
It's funny that one caught your attention because that's my favorite color.
That winds me up. And then there's something we've talked about. I was talking to Rob about it, and he said, I never realized. He said, because I recoiled when he said that, I've got white and pearl, they're both the same. And I was ready to get out of the truck and have a go at him. But that's white and that's bone.
Yeah.
They're not the
And
same.
there is a
you know?
difference. There is a difference.
They're
No doubt
not
about it.
bone, but pearl, but they
Yeah.
are completely different. And then
Yeah.
bone would be a little more yellowy on the shiny one. But no, these things here. I know Chong had a bunch of them down, and he just rigging them on a jig head and fishing them like for walleyes like he could. You know, I mean, if everybody doesn't have 10 grand to outfit their boat with forward facing sonars, but you stick that on a jig, you're fishing for walleyes. Look out, you know.
Amen.
It's
Especially in big water. I mean, you'll probably catch a smaller eater size too, but those are big flukes. And right now, those walleye, they're putting the feed bags on just because they're done their duty.
Yeah.
To
even those, you know, Scotty, are not really that big.
That's a healthy fluke. I love it, buddy. That's
I
some,
like
some
the
serious
colors on.
plastic
Yeah, he
right
gave
there.
me a 3 or 4 bags full there. So
Nice. Nice to know connections like that. As always, we love talking about various things, Jim. And one thing that we have never actually really spoken about, you and I, is about all the wonderful things you tie. We talk about it sort of, off the cuff. What are you up to this week? What have you done lately? And you show usually a bucket of something that has a whole bunch of stuff that's tied. But
here's what I was doing. Here's what I was doing today.
See what I'm saying? Like, we've
Big
never
giant
actually
tailspins.
focused.
I had a guy bought a couple of these from the Sportsman Show in Toronto from one of the booths. I don't know, somebody. He showed me still had them. They were still back when I still made a lot of them and packaged them. And he messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm down fishing for pike in the St. Lawrence River. I rented a cottage for the summer, and I've caught like 30 pike on this. There's no hair left on it." He said, "I lost the blade off it. Everything, it just got tore up." And he said, "Can you make me a bunch?" So I'm in the midst of making them a dozen of these in white in different colors, and that's the white blades, silver blades, or whatever. And I'll show you a really cool one here. So with that water being so clear, he asked me what a good choice would be. And I said, well, I know a lot of the walleye guys buy black and purple from me.
Oof.
So I've got that, but that blade is black. That blade is black. You can see what it'll really show up in the water. See how important a ball bearing swivel is, but that's
100%.
I've always got something going on the go. I was making football jigs for a guy the other day. There's no end to it. It just it fills in all my empty spots, and it's perfect because where I tie is 4 feet behind me, and where I do emails in the paper and business, which I'll be doing more business again tomorrow morning because I'm still gainfully unemployed. I'll be facing this way. We almost had one. It just didn't.
Well, what you just maybe you just need a better net man. No, I'm just kidding. But on that topic, on that note, I think it's something that we've overlooked and haven't spent a lot of time on. And I'm not really sure why, because it just dawned on me on the weekend. I thought, you know what, Jim, something we've never spoke about is your baits. And again, you have. And I know how you are, but you know what? Given this current situation, let's talk about it and let's dive right into it, because I think the how, what, and when about these baits is really important, because they all look wonderful, but they all fit a certain purpose and they all have a special presentation. So without further ado, these are some of the baits that you have tied together. Wonderful looking jigs. Of course, they all have a different purpose. They all have a different presentation. They show up differently in the water. And I don't know if it's something that you use all throughout the year, but you're going to certainly explain each one of them. We'll cycle through and just quickly look at what we have, and then we'll go back and we will discuss them bait by bait by bait, so that you can explain exactly why you tie these and why and how you would typically use them. Some beautiful stuff here, Jim. All right. Well, without further ado, let's head back. So this is the first one. What would you call this?
Yeah, it's a, like, it has the eye up front like that. There's no lead in front of the eye, so it's going to mean that it's going to come up faster when you lift it. It'll come up faster because there's nothing dragging at the bottom. It's kind of like a banana head, but it'd be a lot more weedless because of the way it is at the front. There's nothing in the bottom below the eyes like lead sticking out to catch. Like if you were to use like even where you use a ball head, there's lead in front of it. Like it's almost impossible to get weed to gather on that, except maybe a touch around the eye. Where other jig heads you'll see when we move on have the hooks coming straight out the top, and those are just a nightmare for. I made these ones here a couple of years back for a guy that was fishing splake over here.
Wow.
On the Rideau Lakes, and he was on Newborough fishing for splake, and he asked me to make him a bunch of jigs. They were smaller, shorter. He just wanted things that were small. The bait fish out there were like 2.5 inches long that he was seeing. He snagged a couple on a jigging spoon, and he wanted something. He showed me a picture, and that was the closest I could come. And he sent them back to me, and they looked like shaving brushes. The hair he caught he caught more splake in 1 year on those 2 jigs. You know, I thought he was going to order a dozen from me the way he was talking. And I mean, I don't care. You can order whatever you want. And he says, well, I'll get you to make me 2 of those. I got the impression his wife was listening to him order. No.
That's hilarious. Now, Jim, would this be a casting jig as opposed to a vertical jigging jig?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, a sort of a round head, and this is a similar head. Obviously, the eyelet is a little bit further on top of the jig head itself.
That's a banana head. Yeah, that's the number one choice for ripping weeds, like fishing in the Kawarthas. 99% of the people, that's what you'll see on their rod. Like at the Canada US on the weekend, I must have mailed out 8-10 packages in the last couple of weeks to guys that were fishing in that. And of course, they don't check their tackle box till the week before.
Right.
In fact, that's where those ones went. Now everybody hears about black. Here's a guy that's always in the top 10. There's what he's using. He's just looking for a bite that's strictly just like the thing goes ripping past so fast, you know. It's bright so they can see it, and they whack it. Hey, but it's it's another one. But every once in a while, see, braided line made these a lot easier to use because when you give it a snap, there's no give. So even if you get a little bit of weed across the front of the hook there where it sticks out of the eye, it rips it off.
Right.
It rips it off. Where the other one, the first one there, was almost impossible for it to gather. I've got several guys that have gone from this one to that one. It's called a poison head, and guys are liking that one a lot. And you know, there really is. You always hear me say it was the little things that made the difference. It's things like this, once again, that make a difference in how many fish you catch. Just because your presentation maybe changes, you're not spending half the day picking the weeds off, so you got your lure in the water longer, so you're going to catch more fish. And it's you pay attention to things like this, and it really, really works, Scotty.
Now, are you painting these jigs?
I didn't paint these particular ones. My buddy Steve in North Bay.
Okay.
The one fan there.
Yeah.
Little inside joke. He painted those. He painted a whack of those for me years ago. I had him paint up like thousands of jig heads for me.
Nice.
And I think I've got, there's not that many left.
Ooh.
I don't.
Bit of a weak
I used to have like 5 boxes like this put away, and that's all that's left. There's 1 box. That's it.
Jeez.
And you can see the ones on right in my hand here.
Yeah.
On this side here, that's the ones that's all that's left of them now.
And with these jigs, is there a specific weight that you usually tie, like 3/8, half ounce, quarter ounce?
Kawartha Lakes, quarters and 3/8 of the deal. 3/8 is by far the biggest one.
Oh, I can't argue that. That's for darn sure. Beautiful stuff. I love the red hooks. I absolutely love the red hooks.
Yeah, those are Daiichi hooks. They're probably some of the best hooks made in the world.
Now, this would be a more vertical jig head, correct? This is where you're
open water. Yeah. Sell a lot of these with bigger hooks to pike fishermen, the St. Lawrence. We get like a 4-aught or a 5-aught hook even in some of them, and they fish in. And that all that lead above the in front of the hook there, that helps keep it down a little bit because it doesn't rise up as fast. So it's better for fishing in deeper water, things like that. That's why I often wondered. So many of the companies that make lake trout jigs, they make it on a banana head jig, which is the worst of all for staying down in deep water.
Right.
As soon as you start to move it, it wants to come up, regardless of how heavy it is. You know, that's just physics, the shape of it. But stuff like this, I sell a pile pilot the guys
And
fishing like.
I don't want you to relinquish any trade secrets, but I have noticed a bit of a pattern when it comes to the lighter colors. You have a tendency to use red as your finishing yarn. Is
Yep.
there a theory behind that, or
Red. I just it's the way I learned to do it.
okay?
The way I learned to do it. It's what it, it's what I
'Cause
have.
to me,
nice little-
it's very close to where the gills might be, or if a fish is wounded, there'd be that puff of blood that might come out in that general area of the jig. I'm not sure if that's your mindset or what you're thinking when you tie these. But
it's just a contrast.
yep,
Just a contrast on it. It works well. We were always taught, every lure has gills painted on it.
right.
I mean, when a bass swims up to a black flipping jig and looks at it, he doesn't see any red gills, and they pound it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's
Now,
There's a lot
what
of
weights do you
things-
typically do these in? Are these 3/8 half ounce? Do you get into the bigger ones as well?
probably start in 3/8 and go up, because see, everybody doesn't fish around weeds. They might be fishing these, like I said, for pike or bass or lake trout, things like that. So yeah, a lot of them tend to be a lot heavier. In fact, the heaviest jigs I have are 3 ounces, and I don't even have a lot of those left this year. They're on that particular head, and
And this would be a great jig to use for lake trout fishing in the wintertime, I would imagine, too.
Oh yeah, you could do that to 100%. Yep.
Nice stuff. And the tinsel, obviously that lateral line. How important is that when it comes to these kind of presentations?
Well, for ripping, probably it's more for the person buying the jig.
Okay.
Because, like I said to you, the jig is moving around so fast, the noise it would create,
Right.
and it's in weeds. They're not going to see that flash. You know what I mean? And
Right.
even if it's enough to make a difference. I have guys call me up and they tell me I don't want any tinsel on the jig like that. I don't need it. And then they say, "So are the jigs less to buy?" To which I respond, "No."
That's hilarious. Well, as I said, these are kind of your go-tos. These are some of the stuff that I typically see you tying on a regular basis. And of course, this is the banana head, and I love that color.
No, that's called a slide along, Scott.
Oh, that's not a banana head.
No, see the difference? See,
Oh.
it's shaped like a Lindy sinker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works great in the weeds, or if you want to just reel it along, which some guys do with it. It wants to ride up really fast because of the shape of it.
Yeah.
Remember, it's upside down there, so when you flip it the other way around, it's got that smooth, flat bottom. So when you start adding any velocity to reeling it, it wants to come up really, really quick. But it's very, very weedless, because see the way the eye comes out.
Mhm.
There's nowhere for the weed to catch.
And there, I just learned something tonight, because I thought that was considered a banana head. Just going back to these again, there is a question by Jeremy. Do you tie them in 2 ounces?
Yeah, I have some. I have a few left. The only ones I have left, I think, are red and white though. But they're
Okay.
from trout, so yeah.
Right on. Yeah, Richard, absolutely. As we just mentioned, these would be perfect for lake trout on Okanagan. That is for darn sure. Again, I love the head on this. I didn't realize what the name of it is, and of course,
Yeah, that was a do it mold.
Now, is that a banana head?
No, that's that cabbage crusher, the one that Northland makes. I just put that in there because I wanted to talk about it again. You've heard me rant about this thing.
Yeah.
It's the most weedless jig head that's ever been put on the face of the earth. Now,
Man, I'm
some of it
learning
has
a
to
ton.
do with those two little, I forget if they're titanium or whatever they are. They're some kind of springy wire though, and they don't seem to interfere. Every bite that I've got with those things, whether I had the fish get off or not, when I set the hook, the fish was there. So I know that they didn't stop me from hooking it. Eh? That's a little limestone lure swim bait there, one of Jeff's.
Mhm.
I just had that in there once again to add a little bit of bulk to it, and a little bit of wiggle out the back, and a little bit of flash.
Now, early on, in the
I
season,
tied the hair on this. You don't buy these like this. I added the hair.
no, now the only question I have for you is early on in the year, you don't necessarily have to dress it up, because the walleye especially are so aggressive that I typically would just use a hair jig just because of its profile through the water. When do you go to the plastic? When do you start bulking it up and making it a little bit
Unless
more
I'm rip jigging, unless I'm truly rip jigging, I'll usually add some plastic to it all the time. That's just the way I am.
Yep.
Always, a lot of times it's just a little straight tail that's out the back, like the same distance there, but it's a straight tail.
Yeah.
Like it would use almost like a drop shot bait. Sure, if I have something right here. It's pretty cool, I think.
Coxman's asking, do you grow the hair that you tie? It's a good question. It's actually, you know what? I believe, did you not tie one for Bill Maftruck? You used hair that we did as at one of the CFN retreats. I brought it to you.
Maybe I don't remember for sure.
Yes, yeah. So that's the only time, Coxman, that I've actually known that he has used real hair. But
and another one that I really like for adding is this another one of Jeff's from Limestone. It's a little, I think it's called the Deputy, if I'm not mistaken. But see, it's got that funny little tail.
Yeah.
And I've been using that on the back of my chatterbaits too. And you never know what it's going to do. I've never seen a tail like that.
I have not either.
Just zips around at the back. It's just incredible. I like it.
You've seen everything.
When I say it's hanging up the back, it's just there.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for it to be jumping around, wiggling all over the place. That's not necessarily what catches.
100%. All right, moving right along. Of course, I really like that setup. That is a sexy setup for wallet. Now, this is what I really wanted to talk about, because there were certain things about football heads that I didn't really necessarily understand. I've always used them, and I found that their ability to sink and be stable in the ground, subsurface, whatever it is that you're reeling it in or casting it out to, it just sits in such a way that it just becomes fixated, and the fish are able to target it easily. But you did mention something, that there is a reason you use football heads as opposed to just a regular jig head.
Yeah, Scotty, when I see people out and they go and they buy this and they go flipping with it or something, I'm confused why they would want to use something that has so much lead out to the sides. Here, let me get one here so that you can see. Telling you about making these for the guys this week. So you can really see the shape of it.
Steve's talking some smack here. He says, not sure if walleye and aggressive should be used in the same sentence. Just saying. Wow. That's a true.
You ever feel them hit a rip jig?
That's a true bass angler right there.
You see the shape of the football head. So why would you want to use something with all that lead sticking out to the side to catch weed?
Right.
And that's why these are meant to be cast out, let it go to the bottom, where you want to fish, rock, rubble, sand, not in weed, because it's going to get stacked. And you simply reel it back. You can reel it back reasonably fast. They're usually heavier and sort of pro water, like 12 to 15 feet or deeper is where they're used. And you reel them and you just let them sort of rattle along the bottom. You just looking like a crayfish. That's why you can see all these ones. They're all made in, dirty, dark, greeny, just not, pukey looking colors, so to speak, eh?
To answer your question, Peter, yes, yes, they would be used more around rocks instead of weed lines.
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, yeah. But
they could be very effective on a flat. I could see them being very effective on a flat.
Yeah. The jig is shaped like Stewie Griffin's head, like a football, hence the name. So when you reel it along the bottom, it can't fall on its side and get the hook stuck. And that's the whole deal. This is what that was invented to be. When I used to do the seminars in the tank at the Sportsman Show, I'd show people how to use it, and people would come and say, "You just reel it along the bottom?" Like, yeah. Well, you ever seen where a crayfish lives? Where do you want a crankbait to be all the time?
Yeah.
What do you get? 3/4 of the crankbaits either look like a minnow, and you use them, along weed edges and stuff, or the rest of them look like crawdads, and you reel them up, try to hit the bottom to look like a crayfish, right? But it's really important that jig head doesn't fall on its side, get snagged on the bottom, and that's what that prevents the shape of it. And that particular one has a weed guard on it. As you can see, this guy's going to use these in the St. Lawrence. No weed guard.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice looking jig there, Jim. Holy smokes.
Thank you.
Very nice looking jig. All right. This is a little bit different. I don't know the name of it, and I'm not going to try and guess because I've got banana head wrong twice already, so I don't want to have three strikes and
times.
out. Yeah, not going to do it. So what type of head? This looks more like a Ned presentation or
Yeah,
a Ned head?
it stands up. Like those jigs are all standing on their own. So if you throw half of them on the ground, there's a good chance that like eight out of 10 will end up like that. And with hair on it like that in the water, it makes it even more so because the hair off that part of the tail is buoyant. And this was a guy that fishes smallmouth. He sent me about 30 of these jig heads. I hadn't seen them for years. He said, I've had these in my box. I used to just put kale and grubs on them, and fish for smallmouth. And he said, could you just tie them all to look like some dirty old greeny, yellowy looking crayfish along the bottom? And that's what I did for him. And he's caught so many fish with them, it's nuts.
Well, that is a
It's
lovely.
a really cool. There it is.
There's the most traditional. I mean, this is the go-to. This is the one that I remember, as a young grandchild of my grandfather, where I would snip all of the hair off the jig just to use something that I could put a worm on, not knowing what the heck they were. I just thought, all this hair, they got to get rid of all this hair. I can't put a worm on this. And then I found out how to use it. And holy smokes, these things are amazing.
Yeah, ball heads are the number one. There's more of those sold, I think, than the rest put together. I wouldn't hesitate to say that they're the most versatile out there. You can use them for you can use them for almost anything. I have a few guys in the quarters that I tie patterns for, minnow type patterns, and they rip jig with them. And I don't think it's the best choice for rip jigging, but it definitely gets the job done.
There you go.
And of course, like the more proficient an angler you are, the better it works, right?
100%. This is a stand-up jig. I'm not
That's
exactly
called
sure.
a power R head.
Power R head. There you go.
Yeah, that was another. That's almost 2 ounces. Those were from muskies, and I tied them with a piece of wire and put a big blade out the back. That's the thing that Liam Gord Pizer's grandson caught the giant tiger muskie on.
Yes, that's right.
Late in the fall, I sent him home with a couple of those when he was in university here at Queens, and he came and he showed me, and he was fishing alone and he didn't get a picture, so I don't talk to him anymore. No.
Tough crowd. Now these you get up past half ounce, like these, you put some serious weight to these, right? Like there's some bigger.
Yeah, that's 2 ounces.
There you go, 2 ounces. Holy smokes.
People don't realize how big they are. Yeah.
Holy crap, that is big. Wow.
And they will stand up.
Now I have to ask. You sent me this picture, and I wasn't sure what the significance of it, but you're going to tell us, I hope.
Yeah, that's called a worm nose, because it was what they used to fish little finesse worms on, little 4-inch kaolin worms and stuff like that. And you would thread it on and push the worm right up against the jig head that kept everything round in the front, so they called it a worm nose because the jig head would in. This is what we tie fluff on.
There you go.
So this is what it looks like when you go smallmouth fishing in the St. Lawrence River down here at the mouth of Lake Ontario, and you catch 38 smallmouths in an afternoon fishing fluff. And this is what you end up with. So the last cast that this jig was throwing, it looked like that, and a 7-pound, 12-ounce smallmouth ate it.
Jeez.
You always want to talk about fish being smart and learning.
Not in this case. Yeah, not taking.
That's one that was 712. He's been around for a little while, or she's been around for a little while to learn a little bit. But my buddy showed that to me. Yeah.
Then of course the underspin.
Yeah, that's my buddy Sheldon from Jacked Up Jigs. He sent me over a couple of those last fall, and I just absolutely clobbered the fish on them. I don't know whether I got one here.
I like that. I like the shape of that head. That's a unique shape.
Yeah, he had that done. That's what they look like, and you can see the line still on it where I brought it off my rod. But I caught a lot of fish. That's the old Jackal rhythm wave on there. I'll have to find another favorite. And then I was playing this morning with one of my own, and Peter Cito sent me over, or handed me the last time I saw him, a bag of baits, and it's the sort of like the bellows type knockoffs
Yeah,
that
yeah.
everybody has now, eh?
Yeah.
And I put it on one of the little underspins, and look at that.
And that's going to move a lot of water. All of those ribs.
That
holy
little
smoke,
gold
that's
blade
good.
under it, like it's just you can see it's nice and flat, but just that just cranked me.
Yeah, that's so that I think that's the next one that's coming up here. Yes, that's the one that you
Oh yeah,
sent.
there I forgot I sent you the picture. Yeah,
And I would say with the amount of water that's passing over those ribs, it will create a certain vibration in the water.
it'd be
that will
noisy,
just-
especially with that blade down there too.
Yeah, amen. But that's a sexy looking presentation right there.
Yeah, it's funny. I was sitting here sending an email, and I just started to vibrate, and I thought I went and got the jig head, put the blade on the swivel, put it on the bottom, went and got the bait, put it on. It was still sitting here.
That's hilarious. And last but not least, of course, these are for some of the larger musky baits, whether they're cowbells or just inline spinners.
Yeah, I don't know how that got in there. I didn't wasn't supposed to be, but
Well, as I said, it is something that you have been doing recently, and I know that
there's some more nice ones right there.
who is it? Dodson? Dodson's the
Dadson, yeah, Johnny
Dadson.
Dadson and Pete Bosselman, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of those out there. There's I sent them off a bunch, and when I send them off, I put them in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
So they stay together. Gee, it's funny. It's not going to show it nice, eh?
That's all good, buddy.
But I put that in an 8x10 envelope. There's a whole bunch of them there. They're all doubles and
Sweet.
stuff like that. But yeah, no, I mean, guys love that stuff. There was a couple of others. There's one that I made. It's not showing up because it's totally white.
Yeah.
And I called it the Crystal Skull, and the guys went nuts.
That's awesome.
That will draw a fortune.
Now, to wrap everything up, if anybody wants any of these jigs or they want to suggest something that they'd love to see you tie, how do they get a hold of you, Jim?
Shoot me a message, buddy, on Facebook. That's all they got to do.
Right on.
You won't have to wait long.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I know we have to get to Lawrence, and I don't want to hold them up too much longer, so I want to thank you for doing that. I think we're going to do it again as time goes on, but lots of questions that came up in the comments, and as I said,
I'll go check him out. I was surprised to hear Lawrence bring in. Was it his mother-in-law?
I'm not sure. It's
Yeah,
his mother or mother-in-law, one of the two.
Bring her to the train station?
Well, we don't. Do we have to go back over
Oh,
that?
sorry, he was bringing her from the train station.
From yes, Jim. As always, my friend. Thanks so much for all your time. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for all you are.
Blatant
And,
commercialism.
There we go. It works. Weapons. Yeah, that's cool, buddy. You have yourself a great week, man. We'll be in touch.
Adios. Be safe, everybody.
Peace, brother. Lawrence, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Oh, if I was any better, I'd be you. But I know. Sorry that we took a little bit longer with Jim. I've so desperately wanted to do that for him.
Fascinating. I love jigs fishing for sure, and just all those insight, all that experience. It's great.
Yeah, 100%. But it's been a while. We missed you last week. And obviously, we're glad that everything worked out. I know something popped up last minute that you had to attend to, but
we were up at the cabin, and we were up there at the center, and off grid, no communications, and by the time we wrapped up, it's a 2.5 hour drive, so we just couldn't get back in time.
No, it makes perfect sense. Now, before we move on to anything else, I know you wanted to talk about the Great Lakes Commission and some great news that's coming out of there, and I know you got to get going, so I want to get right to it.
Yeah, it's the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. There's the Great Lakes Commission, there's the Great Lakes Executive Committee, and there's the International Joint Commission, and the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. And they're all sort of binational organizations, right? Like American, Canadian. The Great Lakes Fishery Commission is really focused on, it was created to find a solution to the sea lamprey issue. Right. And it did. The scientists developed that lampricide, and they've been applying that ever since, and getting the sea lamprey population down to below 90% of what it used to be, and allowing the fish in the Great Lakes to recover after 100 years of virtual oblivion. Right, from 1880 to 1970, the fishing was pretty slim on the Great Lakes, and so I've been following them because they have a lot of science committees made up of scientists from around Canada and the United States, and everyone works voluntarily. And then they have this commissioners. There's 4 Canadian commissioners. I don't know how many American commissioners. And they're usually political people, and they're the ones that sort of discuss and figure out how to resolve issues around sharing the fishery, right? Who gets what, and that's commercial, recreational, indigenous fishery issues, all 3.
Wow. Holy smokes. Okay. And what is the hope? What's the goal of all this?
Well, they say it's the most valuable freshwater fishery in the world. It's worth $7 billion Canadian.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, about 300 million of that is commercial fishing. So the other, 670 million, well, 6,700,000,000 of that is recreational fishing and indigenous fishing. But they don't really have any good numbers on the indigenous fisheries, because tribal fisheries in the U.S. and indigenous fisheries in Canada don't really have to report numbers, right? So that's sort of a little bit of an unknown. But they say from the recreational fishing side, it's prolific, man. Like, 1.5 million people fish the Great Lakes every year. It's it's a lot of fishing going on there, and it's quite exciting. I enjoy hearing their news releases and following them, and watching the people there doing great work. And but Scotty, it was funny. I was coming home from the Toronto Sportsman Show. I think I'm on the road with a buddy.
Yeah.
And I get this call from their new communications director, Greg. And he said, Lawrence, he said, I've been hearing good things about you from our executive director, Mark Gaden. And he suggested I give you a call. I said, okay, what's going on? And I figured he probably wants me to do a podcast or something, cover some sort of news story. And he goes, well, we have this, about the Great Lakes Fishery Commission and the work we're doing and so on. And I was just wondering if you would be interested. And then the phone cuts out, and it just goes dead for like 5-6 seconds. And then it cuts back in. It goes, and then I hear him say, so what do you think about that?
Don't you just hate that? Oh, my Lord.
I have no idea what he's talking. So I just said, well, yeah, that's interesting. I'm pretending that I'm saying. I said,
no, you didn't ask him to repeat it?
No.
Oh, no.
I figure I'll figure it out, right? I'll figure it out. I said, what do you call that again? He goes, oh, it's the Canadian Committee of Advisors. And I said, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. So you'd be interested then? And I said, sure, yeah. I still don't know what he's talking about, but
wow.
It turned out I was nominated to become a member of the Canadian Committee of Advisors. So there's this committee made up of about 10 Canadians, and we advise the Canadian commissioners.
Interesting.
So there's two scientists, 2 indigenous fishers, 2 commercial fishers, 2 recreational fishers, 2 environmentalists, and 2 at large. And I'm thinking, where am I fitting in on this? But they put me in as an at large, which means I can do whatever the hell I want. I can say whatever I want. I don't have to stay in my cubby. I could talk recreational fishing, commercial fishing, environmental stuff, science. I can talk whatever I want to talk about and give advice on any of those topics.
Well, I would imagine that's what at large would represent in this case. Because I mean, all those folks would have an opinion, or at least some good knowledge about the rest of the industry, not just pertaining to what they're there about. But they have a pretty good grasp on what's going on with the industry. You speak to the angler. You know, the recreational angler, you special interest groups, commissions, researchers. I mean, the list is large. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And you interview them, so you get a firsthand view. And for those who do not listen to Bluefish Radio, have missed out on all that, and you can circle back, resource a lot of those interviews that you've had, and speak to what it is that they're wanting to know. So I do that at large. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're just as important, if not more, than some of the other designate stakeholders.
I think so too, Scotty. Because at first I thought, oh man, I'm not in the recreational fishing community, so close, but no cigar. And the commercial, well, that makes sense. I'm not a commercial fishing guy. I don't claim to be. I mean, I've done it, but I don't want to mix it together with recreational fishing, because commercial fishing obviously gets a black eye, right? And and I was warned about this years ago, Lawrence. Don't mix commercial in with recreational, because the commercial stuff is always going to crap, and then people just assume the recreational is just as bad, and it's normally not the case. So stick in the lanes of recreational fishing, but you know what, Bluefish Canada does a lot of collaborations with environmental groups, with a lot of community groups. So I have a lot of contacts there, and can monitor what they're saying about fishing, which isn't a whole lot. But it's increasingly more like the barriers between environmentalism and fishing, they're starting to come down. Environmentalists think, man, anglers make good allies, because we all have the same goal, right? Save the fish and make sure there's fish around for the future.
So if I was playing devil's advocate and I was to say, holy, here we go, another committee that's going to do nothing. Speak to that. Like, for those naysayers out there, here we go, put in yet another committee together. They're going to achieve nothing. They're going to talk a lot about issues that are affecting our fisheries and commercial and recreational angling as a whole. But what do you say to those people that say, oh, here we go, just another committee?
I think the new executive director, Mark Gaydon, I've known him now for 15 years. He gets it. He gets that recreational fishing has been flying below the radar for way too long when it comes to the Great Lakes fisheries, quote unquote, right? And then at the same time, I get appointed as an advisor to the Canadian commissioners. Who else gets appointed as a commissioner? Dr. Stephen Cook. And he's been chairing different committees under the Great Lakes Fishery Commission for years. So he knows how it works on the inside. He's also got a lot of international knowledge. He's got a lot of science knowledge. So, and he's, well seasoned in terms of, the big picture and how to move things around that makes sense, and not do stupid things that just piss everybody off. So, and he's a recreational fishing guy. Like, he says, yeah, he does commercial fishing, do a little bit, but I know, and he knows his real success and his real love is recreational fishing. So to have him, a recreational fishing scientist who loves fishing, as a commissioner is great. To have Mark Gaydon, who gets it, as the new executive director of the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, and then to bring in, not only that, but they brought in Rob from Watersheds Canada. And Rob used to be the communications director for the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters. So he's all into fishing and hunting. Now, mind you, with the Watersheds Canada, he can't talk about fishing so much, because Watersheds Canada is about habitat and shorelines and making fish habitat and fish spawning beds. It's not about fishing. Some of their sponsors are anti-fishing, but he'll live with it. He'll suck it up. But he still loves fishing, man. He still loves fishing, and he's on there as an environmental advisor for. So they're stacking the deck. They're stacking the deck in the advisories, commissioners, and I think we're going to start to finally get some frickin' recognition as whose wheels are making this cart roll anyways. It's recreational fishers. We're the ones spending all the money. We're the ones loving it to death with all our hatcheries and conservation efforts. We're the ones watching over it. We're the ones raising red flags when things go sideways. you know, we need to get some recognition, and we're the ones that make it the most valuable freshwater fishery in the world. Face it, the Great Lakes are doing pretty well these days in terms of fish population, and sustainability, and the ability to eat the fish safely. So you know, I think what they recognize is, if all these people are out there catching fish recreationally, and we have really very little idea of the value. I mean, I did some numbers on it on Lake Ontario, and I said, just, you know, if you think about who goes salmon fishing and how many days they go salmon fishing, you know, if you compare what you can harvest in a day as a recreational salmon fisher, and then go to the grocery store and buy the same amount of salmon that were caught wild at the grocery store, you're getting about $850 worth of fish in
Yeah.
one day.
That's
In
a
one
good
day.
way to look at it.
You know, that's a valuable harvest.
Yeah,
And
that's a
these
good
are a
way to
lot
look at
of hatchery fish. It's a kind of put and take fishery to a large degree. And but we need to start recognizing that and documenting that. And I think once we put some economic numbers behind it, some good numbers behind the recreational fishery on the Great Lakes, they'll start to see, man, recreational fishing is hugely important. Hugely important to coastal communities, to tourism, to all the other spin-off industries, boating, hotels, restaurants. It's a huge player. And it's not even getting the love it needs, because where do you see, you know, hey, let's celebrate the fish that are caught in the Great Lakes, and let's have a fish fry. Let's have these restaurants feature these fish from the Great Lakes on their menus. Where do we see that, right? Where do we see it at the grocery store? Great Lakes fish on the in the grocery stores? Well, almost never. Almost never.
I could not agree more. That is one of the biggest pet peeves of mine, is that we do not source local, and we should. You know, with all the walleye and perch that are taken out of Lake Erie, you know, why is it always going somewhere else other than to our markets? And there might be some small little niche stores that do serve it and have it on display for purchase, but for the most part, you're 100% right. Like I've always said, why can I not get Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, whatever you want to call it, shrimp? Like, why are we always going over to Malaysia? And I understand the money. I get that. But it would be nice to at least have it as something as a choice, and we don't have that choice. So my question is then, what are some of the discussion points? What are some of the topics that they're going to be discussing at these meetings? Because it seems like it's a little slanted towards the recreational side as opposed to the commercial.
Not yet. It's very still focused. A lot of it's about sea lamprey and diverting sea lamprey, trying to get away from the use of lampricide, you know, chemicals, and get into hard barriers, so, you know, more physical interventions to block the sea lamprey from successfully spawning. That's been a big focus. You know, in COVID, we dropped the ball a little bit. We stopped with the lampricide for about a year because of the science and the social distancing and all that stuff, you know, just getting them out of the water and spreading that stuff out. It couldn't be done. And we saw a huge uptake in sea lamprey just because of that. You know, a few years later, it was quite scary. And then we saw it again when Donald Trump slashed the budget last year. And we lost 6 or 8 weeks of lampricide, and then it was restored in the United States, and the Americans got back on track. That was scary, because what we know about you know, stopping after COVID, we know that you just can't stop, man. You take your foot off the gas for 1 minute, and the sea lamprey are racing back. So there's that for sure. But I think, you know, now they've got numbers where they show lake trout or a sustainable fish stock in Lake Superior now, in Lake Michigan. The salmon are doing great in Lake Ontario. The walleye and perch are doing really well in Lake Erie. You know, we've got some great numbers. And how do we turn that into not just like, and we saw this, Scotty, last, you know, we were talking all winter, right, about British Columbia, and what's worth more, a salmon caught in a net and shipped off to China, off the coast of BC, or salmon caught on the end of the fishing line? We found out that a salmon caught in a net and shipped to BC, to British China, is worth about $8 a pound, or $8 a fish. That same fish caught on a fishing line by a recreational angler generates about $85. So if that's the case, why do we put all our eggs into the commercial fishing basket? I'm not saying don't, stop commercial fishing, but, we got to put, recognize the real player here, the real wealth generator, and that's recreational fishing. And
that's I never thought about it. Like, I mean, obviously we've talked about it, but if you were to put a dollar value on something like that, yeah, you talk about what an argument you create. Holy smokes!
I'm going to be pushing that. I'm going to be pushing that like crazy. We got to recognize. Look at the First Nations communities along the Great Lakes. They're getting recognized as okay, go fishing, and it's super important to you, and it is. It's super important to them. It's been important to them for 10,000 years. And we show up, in the last 300-400 years, and people came over from Europe, and the first thing they want to do is catch fish and feed their families. It's the most automatic thing they can do to put food on the table, and they've been doing it ever since. So there's that too. We have that in common, and we understand there's a value in marketing and selling the opportunity to go fishing on the Great Lakes, the most valuable Great Lakes fisher in the world. Who doesn't want to come and experience that, right? It just has to be properly marketed, has to be showcased, and we can bring in people from around the world to experience this. You don't have to go into the far north. You don't have to fly into some $5,000 a week American Plan fishing lodge. You can go fishing on the Great Lakes and have an amazing. We talked about this. The salmon fishing on Lake Ontario you get better Chinook fishing on Lake Ontario than you do out on the West Coast now.
You shouldn't say that, man. You're going to piss so many people off. But you know what? It can be argued. I mean, certainly in some areas, if you were to go from area to area in BC, yeah, you could almost make that argument that some of them fishing on the Great Lakes is better than what they have currently right now. And what a shame. I keep going back to that. What a shame that we're even discussing it. That it's gotten that bad. But at the end of the day, yes, we should relish how great the Great Lakes currently are. Zebra mussels, everybody was going nuts about zebra mussels, and then of course, the gobies came in, and everybody was losing their mind. The fishery's going to just decline. It's going to be the end of fishing as we know it. And the
Asian carp now knocking on the door, right? And we're worried about that, and how that could just totally destroy things. So I agree. We gotta recognize it. We gotta start to figure out the value of it, the true value, and how that breaks down, and how do we promote that and advance that and do even better at that in terms of monetizing our Great Lakes fishing opportunities for recreational anglers. And then if we can do it on the Great Lakes, if we can prove that this is the gold bar, right? This is the golden ring. Recreational fishing doesn't get any better than that in terms of economic generation than recreational fishing. Everything else pales in comparison. And if that becomes the sort of, if we get that recognition and it becomes acknowledged, then why wouldn't it be the same thing on the West Coast with the salmon, or the East Coast, with bluefin tuna or muskie, or striped bass? Why wouldn't it? Why can't we? They could learn from what we're doing on the Great Lakes and take a lesson from our playbook and do the same thing in their fisheries to attract local people and tourists and so on and so forth, and get the protection and politicians who stand on guard for those recreational fisheries.
True enough. You wanted to get going at 8:15, so we've got a couple minutes left. Is anything upcoming that you wanted to share with us that's happening in Bluefish Canada or Bluefish Radio land?
Yeah, the International Association of Great Lakes Researchers is having 5 days of meetings in Winnipeg. And so that's we'll be monitoring that. So stay tuned for some reports on that. We'll be looking for fishy things coming out of that. And we'll be also monitoring the International Joint Commission and what's going on there. But mainly just really doubling down on getting our programs going well. We got
Mhm.
some students hired. They'll be starting with us shortly. And it's time to get some more outdoor activity programs going. Always my favorite time of year, man. Just get
Amen.
away from the desk, get into
Amen.
onto the water, and make just see these programs unfold and learn how to do it better every year.
Couldn't agree more. And with the weather starting to turn in our favor,
Finally.
hopefully we'll be able to get a lot more. This past weekend was not exactly ideal, but as I said, if you're a hardcore angler, you loved every minute of it. And based on what I saw, lots of people caught fish. So
Nice.
it all goes hand in hand.
Nice.
I promised to get you out of here at 8:15. It
Thanks,
is
buddy.
now 8:14, dude. So safe travels. Hopefully everything goes well, and we will
My
talk.
mother's making her annual visit, so I got to go be at the train to greet her.
Well, we don't want to be late for Mom. You take care now, my friend.
Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Lawrence. We got Jay Barnucz coming up right after this.
From the apex of science-first engineering and the most powerful minds in fishing, the most effective soft plastics ever made. Introducing Berkeley Lab Series, the best of our scientifically proven best fish-catching formulas combined, refined, and reborn together in a single line of technique-optimized baits. It's a scientific siege on soft plastic performance by the only name in fishing qualified to do it. The all-new Berkeley Lab Series.
There he is, my man, Jay Barnucz. How you doing, brother?
Good, buddy. How are you doing?
Good. To start, and I might be catching you off guard, but I'd really like to get some of your advice. We launched something this past week that I'm really proud of. And as I said, if folks didn't see the page, they're not aware. We made an announcement that we are in the midst of creating what is called the CFN app, and the app is designed to educate. It's there is so many other spin-offs that could come out of this, but the idea was we wanted to create, or at least when it was presented to me initially. And there's a whole story behind this, but when it was presented to me initially, I thought it was missing something. And something that we've talked about, Jay, at great length is the lack of information when it comes to other languages. And we hear it all the time. People are always, either using it as an excuse or maybe it is real. But at the end of the day, I believe in the early 2000s, it was mandated by the Human Rights Commission that more information in different languages needs to be made available so that folks who are new to the country or visiting the country have a better resource and a better handle on what they can and cannot do. What has evolved, and we will get to it, but I basically wanted to just quickly leave it there because there's a how-to, and this, folks, I just want you guys to know, this is a very new, or I would say, it's not a very finished model of what the app is going to. This is a working model of the app. This is not the finished product by any means. It was one of the very first prototypes that came out, and I want my good buddy Trevor McPherson just to explain sort of the workings and have you guys all have a listen.
Sports fans, welcome to the app preview here. This has kind of been in the work for a while. Had some conversations with Scotty a while back. My name is Trevor McPherson. I am the designer and developer of Future Anglers. We'll get into that later on. This app came to first from Scotty Martin. He had some ideas here, as did Walter, about what the industry needed. So we just dabbled along and found some form of working program that we can help kind of linguistically help people that can't speak the language move through and find the proper regulations and places to help them get started. So this is the app, or the front of what the app will look like. There's no app right at the moment. This is the working prototype. Again, it's a navigational tool. It's not designed to be the do-all, wear-all of answering everything, but it is something that will help direct newcomers to where they need to go and make them feel more comfortable and welcome. Down at the bottom here, we have an affiliated store. It's for any sponsors. It's still in development stage 2, like I say. We're just we don't know if we're going to, it'll probably end up linking to multiple different locations. and multiple different sponsors, probably linked by province as well. You can see up here is the language things. If we get started, we click the language app. Again, there's a store button. The store button or shop button should be on every page. It comes in these languages right now is what we've been working on. So when you push these buttons, it'll open in English. If we go back, it'll open in French, and it will open in Mandarin. Again, we have to get a linguistic person to basically make sure that the interpretations are not inaccurate. We shouldn't be misleading anybody because the major regulations are going to be governed by the provinces. That's got nothing to do with us. It's just we're just trying to be the navigational bar to get them to where we need to go. Inside of here, just a welcome to Canadian fishing. It's basically what you need to do. Know your limits. Gives them a rough overview of what they should need to know. Again, when they open that in their own language, that will convert. Find provincial regulations. Here's your provinces. I live in Saskatchewan, so if I click here, by clicking on these, it will give me the regulations. I'll try it. That'll take me to the Saskatchewan site. And if I want to buy a license, it'll take me to the license site as well. There's oceans and fisheries. And again, I see there's no button. Oh yeah, there's your equipment for specials right there. And if we go back, Ontario, it should be linked to every province, and it'll just get you the same things that we just went through with Saskatchewan. Find provincial regulations. Buy your license. That's no different than license and regulations. If you want to drop a pin, we go here. Scotty's idea was to type in a location. Sometimes you got to be a little bit specific about it, or you can just drop a pin on the map. So it'll open up into a map of Canada. You plop your pin in there on the body of water that you want to go fish in, and it should give you the rules and regulations of the area. And let me rephrase that. It'll give you links to the rules and regulations of the area where you need to buy your licenses and your regulations for that specific area. You can browse by lakes, rivers, federal waters, all locations. Those are just generic buttons that we can push to get to those locations. Ask Finley is the face of the franchise for future anglers, which we'll get into at a later date, probably in the next week or so. I believe it'll be coming out. You can type in questions. It doesn't work. It'll type in questions. It'll be an automated AI assistant that if you have a question, it'll just direct you to the link or answer the question the best can. It just combs the internet to get that information. The Future Anglers program, as I mentioned briefly, there's an introductory, fry level. The age groups are irrelevant, but it progressively goes up in difficulty. There's testing, skill testing, and environmental testing that they need to pass to get on to the next level. Again, this is kind of the levels that it goes through. If we go back into the language thing, just to show you how that works, if you hit French, it opens in French. It should open in Hindi, and it should open in Spanish. And that's kind of the gist of it. That's just to kind of get help.
So that's basically the working model. Again, it's not the finished product. It is not polished the way I wanted it to, nor does Trevor want it to. But the idea of it is basically to feather as much information as we possibly can to people that need to be introduced to fishing, want to know a little bit more about fishing, or maybe they're visiting from a different country and know nothing about what to do, where to go, and how to do it. If with that broad scope of what you see, Jay, is there anything that we really should be focusing on or worried about or including with that app, in your opinion?
I don't think so. Like I think coming at it from an angler where you want, so probably the biggest question that anglers ask, and if we go through, and this is going back before social media is the way we've seen it, where we have Facebook groups. Prior to that, we had chat boards, right? And the chat boards, the number one question that's always asked in those gatherings is basically, where do I start, right? So I actually was involved with a chat over the weekend where an angler was new to the London area, and they were asking, it was London, Ontario Fishing Facebook page. I know some of the moderators. I go on there and help with fish ID questions and stuff. And for the most part, it's pretty positive. Anglers will ask, where can I go? I'm not looking for your best spot. I just want to know where I can go. And I think an app that can do that for anglers, especially when it comes to regulations and getting a license and having it in different languages, Scotty, I think that's a fantastic starting point for the vast majority of new anglers. I have even anglers who, I'm not even thinking of like who are new to the country, but there's anglers I've met recently. These are good friends of mine who haven't taken up fishing in their life. They've probably fished a handful of days in their life. They're about to retire, and they're like, hey, where can I go fishing? And I have friends who I've grown up with in this area, even recently. My friend Jim, he's lived in this area his entire life. He's just shy of 50 years old. Where can he go fishing? And how does he get a license? He's asking me these questions. And I don't mind helping people, but this is a great way for people to get involved in the sport, no matter what your background is. I think it's great, and it looks very functional, man. I've been involved in app development before, and it's amazing for a good app, all the things that you have to troubleshoot, all the things that you have to consider. And I'm watching, I've been involved in these menu designs and watching how fluid it is, going back and forth from like going province by province, changing the language, going back and forth. Dude, it looks pretty seamless. It's pretty amazing, I'll be honest.
I appreciate that. And again, just having a part of this community and having you folks, associated with our community gives it some validation in a big way. And of course, so I appreciate that endorsement, because at the end of the day, Trevor's been working extremely hard on the back end, trying to make it seamless. And I will say, as we move forward, you will see how it is starting to evolve. And what we currently have now that I'm not prepared to share, just because there's so many, as you mentioned, so many loose ends that still have to be tied up. Because everybody's like, "This is great. You got to launch it. You got to launch it." I do not want to launch anything that doesn't work. But of course, we're going to incorporate different languages, because I think there's an aspect there that needs to be spoken of. I've had a few people reach out to me and say, Scotty, if there was a quick link to report poaching, that would be extremely helpful. And, we're going to incorporate that as well. Obviously, stores, like if you are in an area and let's say you lose all your gear or it gets stolen or whatever, and you want to go pick up a rod or rig reel, we're going to make sure that you'll have access to that. So it's basically a 411. It may evolve into spots to go fishing, but that was the one thing that I sort of I wasn't sure about, Jay, because I don't want to be giving out spots or blowing spots up. What's your take on that? Like, how can you be okay and neutral with suggesting a place to go fishing?
I think as long as we're not sharing, it's kind of like information. It's kind of like the information rule in the Bassmaster Elites. And what that rule is basically anything that's out there on the web is free reign. So let's use the City of London as an example. So City of London it's a pretty big city. It's about 500,000 people, about the size of Hamilton. And it's literally parked in the middle of southwestern Ontario, and it straddles the Thames River. And the Thames River flows, the North Thames comes into the city from St. Mary's, the South Thames comes in from Ingersoll. They meet at the Forks, and then from the Fork, the main branch of the Thames forms, and it flows out through Delaware by the 402. The entire city is, and there's a lot of tributaries of the Thames within there, like Medway Creek, and I think there's about almost honestly a dozen tribs of the Thames, and all of them, London, you'll hear it called the Forest City, and it has an incredible amount of valley green space that you can access. Like you can, a lot of it's paved. You can ride your bikes, you can go for a walk. It's actually, I'm impressed with the amount of how the city is integrated with the river itself. So as an angler, you think, well, how do I find out where to go? Well, the City of London and the Upper Thames Conservation Authority and groups like that have produced maps where you could have, like where do you park, canoe access points. So the Thames River itself, years ago, the Springbank Dam was kind of an issue, and that's a whole other show in itself. But the dam doesn't really exist anymore, and so it's created this mecca of it's like canoe and kayak system that people can use in an urban area, which is amazing, right? So I think it's great that people can access the river. But when you're new to the City of London, where do you start? Having links within. So if you let's say you wanted to access the Thames, where do you find information? How do I get access? Like, you know, if you drive through London, Scotty, you've been through London before. You're driving over like Highbury and Veterans Parkway and the 402, and you see these bridges with the river. How the heck do I get to the river? So having that pin feature allows people to add pins, and you might have a chance to have like a whole social network here where people can basically, I guess it's kind of like, what is that app called? There's an app out there that it's like, it's something fish or Fish Easy or something. And you can put fishing reports if you want. It'll show pins. And some people get chastised for putting pins to giving away spots. But I think it would be great to pre-populate an app like that with spots, and maybe only in certain areas where we know those spots, and maybe public access, where let's say we uploaded a layer where the City of London has a canoe route map. They do. So, okay, here's all the canoe launches. Well, we know canoe launches are going to be access points for shore anglers or kayak anglers, right? So, and being able to mark pins and share information that is publicly available, I think that's fine. Like, I know people don't want to give away their fishing spots, but let's be honest, the world would be a better place if there's more fishing rods in people's hands, right?
Amen.
So I see both sides, but I think that having an app like you're developing here, where the community can use it and share information, and I don't know, are you thinking about having like obviously there'll be a lot of it's going to be free for people to use, but is there a way to integrate, to share information with other anglers? What's your kind of long-term thought on that?
So right now, that feature, it's been talked about. Trevor and I have spoken about it. There is a lot of back-end work that's required in order to make that I guess available, if you will. The social aspect obviously is something that, I mean, that's the whole purpose of CFN, and that's why we do it. I would like to have it as a part of the app. It's not the initial goal for us up front, because it's all about there's a gap, there's a need, and I didn't realize how few apps there are that are geared towards Canadian angling. I didn't realize that there's hardly any. So the fact that not only are we providing this information, but we're able to do it now in different languages, I think is a huge tick of the box. Yeah. And once we fine tune that, we will then definitely move on to different aspects of the app. The key though to this app is it's a web-based app for now, and obviously we're doing it because it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. Eventually, we want to turn it into an app that you download from the App Store and put on your phone. But we're obviously not financially there yet. But it is going to be a web-based. And I will say this, what Trevor shared with me today, folks, what you just saw there is like drawing a stick man compared to what he has put together now. So stay tuned.
I think Mark's comment in the chat makes a lot of sense. So, you have someone who wants to go travel across Canada and wants to know where to go fishing. Where do they start? This app gives you a very high level, which is good. This is a starting point, right? So, and I think the app's great for that. So whether you're new to Canada or you're going to a different, like if I went to, if I wanted to go fish in the Northwest Territories, I've never been there before fishing. So how do I get a license? Like, I don't know. What are the regulations? I don't know. So that app is perfect for that. And I think that's probably one thing that people struggle with the most is we have access to all this information. How do we find it? It's so saturated that even if I want to go renew my license, it's not as straightforward. And I work in the industry. It's not as straightforward as you think, right? So I think having a means of pointing people in the right direction is great. And I think this is a great starting point, Scotty, for what you guys have proposed to.
I
Awesome.
appreciate that, and of course the educational aspect of it, and that's true. The true origin of and reason for this app is something that you, to your point, I would never want to charge for information. If we want to provide that information to as many anglers as we possibly can. Certain aspects of the app that will eventually evolve into, as you said, if you want to find a place to go fishing, maybe the social aspect. When it comes to stores, we could have advertising with that. Those kind of features, yes, that will probably be a part of our premium package. And when we do have that, of course, at that point, hopefully it will be an app that you will be downloading on your phone. But for right now, where do I get a license? What are the regs? These are the things that we really need to focus on, because unfortunately, we've really dropped the ball, and it's nice to see something like this coming to fruition. So
well, I think each province, let's say, has done their best to have that information out there, and it is out there. But when you're new to it, how do you find it easily, right? And so having a central place where, like, I don't know, like, there is no website I can think of out there where if I wanted to find fishing license information for each province or territory, I don't know where that would be. It doesn't exist, right? So you have to go searching through basically each agency, and I don't know who the agencies are in different provinces. I have no idea. Even like in Ontario, we have M&R who writes our regulations, but Fisheries and Oceans in other provinces they're the ones who look after recreational fishing, right? So how would you know that without being in the industry? You'd have to find that out for yourself. So yeah, it's awesome, man. Very good.
Appreciate that. With that being said, it's all about education. And of course, there was something that you shared to me this week about thermal imprinting. Well, you know what? Watch the video, folks. And this is unfreaking believable. I had no idea this technology existed.
This is a critical tool for salmon conservation. It lets ecologists mark salmon without having to handle the fish or use chemicals. Water cycles through a reservoir and passes through a UV sterilizer that removes harmful bacteria. It then moves through a chiller, where carefully timed temperature changes mark the developing fish's otolith, a small structure in the inner ear which is recovered in adults after they die. The temperature changes create a unique banding pattern, like a hidden barcode. It shows whether a fish is part of the hatchery program and which rearing path it followed, allowing ecologists to evaluate the success of the emergency supplementation program for kokanee. The water flows from the chiller into the egg tanks, protecting fragile eggs during their most vulnerable stage. Water then flows back to the reservoir where it's re-oxygenated, creating ideal conditions for the eggs to develop. And it all happens before the fish even hatch. Special thanks to the Kokanee Work Group, who provided funding for the station, and to the King County Department of Natural Resources and Parks and Trout Unlimited for running the operation.
I don't even I'm speechless.
So this is really cool science, and this is I wasn't too aware of. So they're calling it cold water marking. Okay, so I've played around with chemicals. So why? Okay, let's talk about this first. I'm trying. There's so much information to cover here, and I'll try and do it best I can in the time that I have. So an otolith is the inner ear bone of a fish, and so it's a structure that we use to tell us a lot about that fish. So now we can age a fish with an otolith. That's pretty common. What otoliths are for is for aging. So when we take an otolith, and they are tiny, but when we cross section an otolith, we get a very accurate ability to interpret that fish's age. Now I say interpretation because aging is a bit of an art, not a science, because you have to understand, just like in a tree, you have lines, but some lines are false annuli and some are true annuli, and there's training. John Castleman in Ontario is probably the pioneer. I shouldn't say pioneer, that makes him sound too old, but he is probably one of the world-renowned experts in age interpretation. And most of the people who have come out of his lab and through his mentoring are some of the best age interpreters in the province. Why is age interpretation so important? Knowing the age of a fish at a certain point in its life cycle is vital to fisheries management. We have to know that so a walleye of a certain length are of a certain age. If we know they're a certain age and they're of a certain, let's say a certain maturity, we want to make sure that before a walleye is eaten, that they've bred once or twice or more, right? So they've contributed to that population. How do we determine the age of those walleye when they're breeding? Well, we have to kill some to get those otoliths. Now, we don't have to kill all the walleye, but we have to kill some of them. So back to what they're doing is, and you need to mark the otolith. And when you mark the otolith at a known point in time, you know that gives you a true annuli. You know you've scarred the bone with a mark. Now, I've done this before with what's called tetracycline. Tetracycline is a chemical that you expose fish to, and it's absorbed. It's a neutral chemical, but it's absorbed into their bones. And down the road, if you euthanize that fish, you kill it, you take the otolith. I know that in 2005, I exposed that fish to tetracycline, and then somebody caught that fish in 2026, and I can accurately guess the age or interpret the age of that fish, okay? Because there's a mark on that otolith. What this allows us to do, and this is all very new to me, and I find this very fascinating. Using cold water, we're not exposing that fish to chemicals. You can use heat as well, but cold is less intrusive on the fish. And what you can do too with the cold, Scotty, is not only help you with age interpretation. So you know when that fish, so in this case, they're shocking, in this hatchery, they're shocking the eggs. So the larval fish have the scar on them before they're even, smolts or even fry, right? It's
and I didn't even think, Jay, that was possible.
So I didn't think it was being done with eggs. I didn't know this was being done with eggs until I saw that. I thought this was something that was happening with, let's say, with fry or smolts. And it probably is happening with fry and smolts, but they're doing it with eggs, which is amazing. So you're scarring that fish at age 0. They are not even a fully developed fish yet, and they're scarring it. What's amazing too, Scotty, is so let's say you catch a kokanee salmon down the road, and let's say you catch it at I'm thinking like the Opeongo Creel Hut. Okay, not saying they're doing this in Opeongo, but that's always what I think of. When you fish Lake Opeongo, you bring your lake trout in, and they will take your lake trout, and where you clean it, they will actually take the otoliths there for you, and they will take the otoliths back to the lab, and they will process the age of that fish. If that otolith is scarred, they don't do this on Opeongo, but if that otolith is scarred, they can process it. On the West Coast, where salmonids are big business, Chinook, coho, kokanee, chum salmon, where they're big business, it's so important to manage that fishery carefully because of all the users, right? You have recreational anglers, commercial anglers, First Nation anglers. And so understanding how those fish contribute to those populations is vital to managing those fisheries. So, so this is very popular in the Pacific Rim. So not just in BC, but the US, Japan, all of those Pacific Rim countries that have salmonids. So Steve, your question, is it all salmonid species? Yes. From what I've read, it's Chinook, coho, chum, pink salmon, kokanees. Okay. So the next thing is, and this is even more mind-blowing. So I was doing some reading on this. I'm going to read this to you. It's where did I put that? Okay. You ready for this? So you can create unique patterns in the otolith. So listen to this. So you can create specific intervals with the cold shock treatment. It basically gives you a barcode on the otolith. So you would expose a fish to like 2 cold shocks, and then it would not have a cold shock for a while, and then 3 more shocks. So picture five marks. So 2 and 3, 5 marks on the otolith, okay?
Okay.
You can do that to a specific hatchery, Scotty. So not only do you know how old that fish is, I know where that fish came from. I've actually stamped that fish from that hatchery. So hatchery A has a unique mark. Hatchery B has a unique mark. And so up and down the Oregon coast, if they have hatcheries, they can mark them in the unique way using cold water. And all of this, you don't have to tag the fish. You don't have to put the fish with MS-222 and put it under and do all these things. You just have to expose them at a young age, in an egg in this case, to this cold water, and it scars them. And it allows us not only to determine age, it allows us to also determine origin. So we know that fish wander. We know fish move up and down coasts. And isn't that amazing where we can do that just by, now obviously that system is very I don't want to call it high tech. It is low tech, but the fact that that system's so efficient, the way it's running, I'm amazed by the ability to do this. And probably with cold water, I would think if you're going to do this with other species, you would have to determine what the optimal water temperature is, because fish have a temperature threshold, be it too warm or too cold. Obviously, with salmonids, they can tolerate the cold. So that's 37-degree water. You saw the thermometer on the side of that. That's cold water.
I will say, Jay, I said this to you when you first shared it.
Yeah.
If anybody wanted to know what an otolith looked like and the rings on an otolith, I have never, ever seen an otolith look this good and descriptive for someone that knows nothing.
I almost thought this might have been AI. And and I'm not saying this is fake at all, but that looks so cool to see that on a small fish, right? Now that otolith is from, like, I'm going to guess that's a 3-year-old fish. So that's a pretty that's not a fry. That's a fish, right? So, but it's fascinating that they can actually do this, and not only can they age fish and interpret age effectively, they can also know the origin of that fish and what hatchery it came from based on how the type of cold treatment that it got. That's what an amazing tool. And you can treat millions of fish, as opposed to, like, if you and I wanted to clip fins, or we had to tag fish, and you look at all the great work that's being done by, like, Ontario Steelheaders and the Saugeen, and some of the stuff that Richard shows, you know, where it's like you're clipping the fins and all those volunteers, which is very essential work. But if you had these cold chillers, which I'm sure are not cheap, and they just do it for you, right? Now, you can't see the tag. You have to kill the fish to get the otolith out. Right. So you don't see, like, so, you know, if you clip a fin, depending on the age of the fish, you know, you have different fins. You have pectoral fins, pelvic fins, adipose fins. You can clip different fins to show different ages. So each year you might clip a different fin. And then as you go forward in time, you know, if it's of a fish of this size and it's got a clipped pectoral fin, it was likely, I don't know, let's say it was tagged 10 years ago, right? So that has proven effective. But fins don't grow back, but sometimes clip fins, when they're small, it doesn't work out, and it's also hard on the fish, get infected, all these different things, right? So yeah, this is a very non-intrusive way of figuring out how to age fish at a small size. It's again, I have never seen this before until I saw it. No. And I actually, man, with all the stuff on the internet today and the stuff we're seeing, usually the stuff I see, I don't like that. And I'll start pressing the not interested button, like stuff that frustrates me. This stuff I pressed, I'm interested. This is very cool stuff. And the algorithm found me and I loved it. I think that's amazing.
Now, I do have to ask this question because, of course, you know, when I did run the walleye hatchery, you do have extremes. And the unfortunate thing is when you do have extremes, especially when there's such a fragile state as the egg cycle, you'd be concerned about die-off. And my thing is the idea or the science behind it the same as turning up the temperature to a frog? Like, eventually something's going to give. Whereas if you go the opposite way, all of a sudden, you know, you're not harming the eggs, but you're more imprinting them. Because really, at the end of the day, was this trial and error? Like, how did they come up with this?
It was probably through trial and error, where they had to figure out. So obviously, the longer the exposure period, probably the better. But what is the minimum exposure time to create the mark? And It was probably done by research. Now, I've been involved in similar research where we've exposed fish to temperature, extreme high temperatures. Part of it's to look at, as rivers and streams are warming, what is the impact of warming temperatures on fish? And so we will heat up the fish in a container till that fish starts to, till it doesn't like it, till it starts to feel a little stressed. And then we stop, and then we let it go back. And for the most part, it's not very harmful at all to those fish. It allows us to understand thresholds. So somebody somewhere did a study in a lab where they exposed eggs or fry or both to different cold temperature, so 37 degrees in that system, and they probably have it down to like how many minutes to expose it to, and then the water's cleared out, and then the let's say warm water in this case is 45 degrees. That's the optimal, because in those hatchery systems, even though they're cold water, you still want them to grow, right? So there's this fine line of growth where, and you know it's better than me, Scotty, but you want to expose fish to as warm a water as they could take to improve growth, right? Because you want them to grow quickly to get them out of that hatchery and get more in, right? So I'm going to guess that they're dropping the temperature, exposing those fish, marking the otolith, and then once that's done, they're going to raise that temperature again. And all of this is highly controlled. These are all, these thermal systems are incredible in how we can manage the temperature, like digitally, where we can increase and decrease with chillers, literally with refrigeration, and how we do it. It's amazing.
So I would have to ask, and the obvious answer would be yes. Obviously, they did it with salmon, or at least the salmon species out on the West Coast, because if you were to do this with lake trout, I mean, it would take a decade to finally get the research, or at least the findings from your research, because, of course, the growth span for a lake trout is so much different than that of a salmon. But I'm thinking, like, with the amount of research, and a gentleman like yourself who does immense research, the amount of science behind this and dedicated time to put something like this together, although it would have been somewhat lesser with the salmon because they only live for 4 or 5 years, still, I can't imagine the amount of work behind the scenes to get to this stage.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but I think though that, and Lawrence talks about this regularly, the value of these fisheries, right? So you're talking about the Pacific coast and the salmonid fisheries on the Pacific coast, right? So obviously there's value in doing this, and someone somewhere has spent the money and the time to test these systems, and the ability to make that effective, because otherwise it wouldn't be worth our time doing it. So someone spent money to do this, and now that looks like they've perfected it, and it looks like, because most hatcheries are flow-through systems, so you just have to bring one of these chilling systems online in your flow-through system, and then expose your eggs to it in those, and those are basically they're not egg mats, but that little honeycomb square they had is just a bunch of little series of squares with eggs in the squares. So you're literally dropping that mat of eggs in there, exposing it for a set time, whatever that time is, and then you're pulling it out and putting it back, probably into the larger, it's not a raceway, but you know what I'm saying, Scotty, like the larger egg tank where the mass population is happening, right? So they'd have to have someone there swapping in these little mats of eggs to expose them for certain periods of time. It's amazing.
It really is, and it blows your mind to what you were saying, with all the crap that's on social media and on the internet. Something like this finally, holy smokes, yeah, you know what, well done, whoever came up with this idea, well done. Thank you for thinking outside, never mind the box, like the hemisphere, like, well done.
And I think too, what's important is that it costs money to develop science, and this is one reason why we need fishery science to develop these techniques. But there's an incredible cost savings when you can mark millions of fish doing that, where you're literally putting in these mats of eggs for a few minutes at a time, let's say, and you're tagging all these fish, and someone doesn't have to do that, right? So someone has to arrange the eggs and do the other parts, but you are making it is very economical, Scotty, when you think about it. When you look at the upfront cost is expensive, but long term it's very economical to do this. And then when fish are caught and surveys happen, whether it be a creel survey or commercial, you might be doing a commercial ride along on a commercial vessel, and you collect these otoliths, and you'll know, one, they're marked for age, and two, you might even know the hatchery of origin. Impressive.
100%. Incredible stuff. Thanks so much for sharing that. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, okay, Jay, you got to come on Monday and explain this, because I'm not even sure I'm grasping the whole concept of it. So I'm so glad that you spent the time and certainly
So-
have the passion to explain it.
Ben's question. So Ben, I don't know for sure, but I'm willing to bet. So a lot of the work that I am involved with, and it takes a team. A lot of the work that I do in research is university based. So I'm going to bet that this occurred in a university, probably government funded program, to figure out how to do this, and value probably a mixture of federal and provincial money went into this probably a long time ago. Like, these things don't happen overnight. These things take years to develop. So I'm going to guess that this research happened a long time ago and has been perfected to this point. It's probably still being tweaked to get better, but it's likely based out of a university. That's primarily where a lot of the fisheries research is. It's very academic based in Canada and the world, for that matter. In fact, you heard Lawrence talking about the GLFC. Most of the GLFC programs out there are university funded programs where there's researchers like Steve Cook and others who I've been involved with GLFC projects in my career, where they've given money to us to answer questions about, like, one study I was involved with as a young biologist was looking at the impacts of lamprey barriers on native species, Scotty.
Yeah.
So lamprey barriers are great for lamprey, but they're not great on other things, right? So there's a lot of fish species out there that can't jump a low head dam that are used for lamprey. So what is the impact of that? So the GLFC works very hard to manage our Great Lakes fisheries, but also provides, we look at all sides. As researchers, we must be objective and look at all sides of these questions. And so what's great for sea lamprey control might not be great for all the fish. And we want to know, not saying we're going to take out lamprey barriers, but we want to know, can we mitigate them? Can we make them better? Can we make the system work better for everything, right? So, like, walleye are not good at jumping, right? So everyone loves walleye, one of Canada's most popular fish. But low-head dams probably impact walleye spawning. So how can we encourage walleye to spawn but still control sea lamprey? That's just, and I'm sure there's been projects out there addressing that. I can't think of any right now, but usually when I think of a question like that, someone's done it somewhere. I just have to find the paper where that's been published, right? So, because we're very good at answering these questions and getting better at answering those questions.
True enough. With 5 minutes left, I'm going to let you pick the last topic that we're going to discuss tonight. You can tell us where you're going to go fishing, hopefully with the weather being
so
this coming weekend.
Dude, we have been rained out this past weekend. We got over 40 mils of rain on Saturday. So everything around here was, and it started early Saturday morning. Everything was washed out. So that's life. We didn't get out fishing this weekend. To be truthful, speaking of universities, so Trevor's been busy applying for scholarships for university, because every little bit counts. So, and if anyone who has family who have applied for university scholarships, they're not easy. You have to write a lot of essays and update your CV and stuff. So doing a lot of that kind of thing. So we've been busy here with those, obviously, because we want to help Trevor. We don't write these things for him, but we're obviously, Heather and I, coming from a writer academic background, we definitely are particular about what he says and how he should say it, right? So we are helping with those. And so, but we're finally into summer.
Yeah.
And so June 1st is meteorological summer. So Monday, June 1st, which is a week today, is the first day of meteorological summer. So, and looking at the forecast and looking at this week and next week, highs in the low to mid 20s. Finally, summer is here. We are busy getting ready for fishing season. I know I want to get out and do some pan fishing. This time last year, we were catching some giant bluegills, which I want to do that again. But also, I'm getting ready for field work, man. We're going out next week to start our summer field season. I've already been out doing work. One project's wrapped up, and we're starting a new project on Monday. So this week is orientation for the students. So dude, today we're packing waders. Wednesday we're doing trailering, teaching how to back up a trailer and hook up a trailer safety, do your circle checks. Dude, you know all the drill, right? So but we have a great gang of students around the building right now. It's a very youthful time. Everyone in the building, the average age has dropped by about 20 years this week.
Wow.
So a lot of wide-eyed, wondrous looks on people's faces walking around the building. So we're busy doing that. But we'll get out fishing this week, and hopefully we'll get out some more as this weather improves. Even tonight at the Jays game, they opened the roof for the first time in weeks. Right?
Weeks.
So, and I've heard rumors of the summer being dry and not much rain again, but the water tables have to be full right now. So hopefully we'll have water for a while. So
yeah, true enough. I was up in the Muskoka area, Huntsville primarily, and you could tell that the water was slightly high. But you know when you're driving past Port Severn, and you have the one dam, the closest one, the largest, that's usually always spilling water over, and then there's that box culvert, which is the next one as you're driving north, and there wasn't a lot of water coming out of it. Like, I mean, not in the sense that we have flooding everywhere. Like we talk about French River. Joe, who's on here, talks about the fact that he hasn't been able to get his boat in the last couple weekends because there's no ramp. It's underwater. But I was surprised to see that the waters were pretty much at where they should be, just in that general area. But everywhere else, we all know how high they are.
And now we're not at high water yet. High water usually comes in June, so in the Great Lakes, and so we're looking at mid-June is probably when, because we had such a late spring, I'm going to guess that mid-June to late June is when we'll see the highest water, and then the water will slowly drop as we go. Lake Erie will come up before Lake Ontario because as the water moves through the system. But yeah, water levels seem to have rebounded. We're still on that downward long-term trend of lower water. Like we peaked in around 2020, we peaked in high water. So we're still kind of dropping, but we've gotten rid of all that spring runoff now. So now it's just a matter of waiting it out. And I think the water temperatures are catching up to where we should be now, Scotty. So last weekend, on the long weekend, we had a lot of warm weather. Those like that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday were really hot.
Yeah.
Actually, I just missed a tornado in London where I was working on Tuesday. That's a whole other story. But so we had all this hot weather, and so it looks like things are getting back in track again. The Grand River got up to middle of last week. It got up to 22 after that hot snap, and then it dropped down to normal temperature. This stuff around 15 right now, which is like perfect for spawning everything. Red horses, smallmouth bass. I saw some photos of videos of Loch 19 in Peterborough. The walleye are there spawning. Everything's a little behind, but I think we're good. I think the walleye will be done spawning. So they're, I don't think it's going to, I know seasons have opened, but I don't think things have been impacted too bad. I think we're finally catching up now. So we'll see. And if we get really hot weather in the next couple of weeks, we'll be right back to normal again. So let's see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, thanks so much, dude. That was an extremely informative session that you just walked us through. Appreciate the advice and the accolades in regards to the app. And as I said, if you do catch a few fish, we'd love to see what you get into this weekend, next Monday.
Yeah, let's hope the weather cooperates and we're not looking at tornadoes and 40 mils of rain. That is not fit for anyone to fish, and I don't care who you are. So thanks, Scotty, and we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. You take care, Jay. Thanks very much. Always a pleasure to have Jay, and of course all of our panel, Big Jim, Lawrence. They bring so much to our community, and we can't thank them enough for all that they do. But more so, we can't thank you folks for joining in, leaving some great comments, some great questions, and being engaging and interactive with the discussion, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We want to engage you folks so that you're asking the questions, you're posing some of the discussion points, because that's truly what this is all about, educating all. I learned some stuff today. I'm sure you folks have learned some stuff today as well. On that note, we will have the Power Hour on Wednesday. Of course, it is the launch of the Compre Conquer All Challenge this weekend. Hopefully we'll get our buddy Mike on to discuss a little bit more, but at the end of the day, there is lots going on in CFN land. So we appreciate you folks being patient, and we appreciate the excitement that you folks have been shared, especially when we posted the launch, or the projected launch of the app. That was meant a lot. I really appreciate I appreciate all of that. With that being said, have yourselves a great week. If we don't see you on the Power Hour, hopefully we will see you with some catches, submissions, species with the Conquer All Challenge. If not, just go out and have yourself some fun. That's what it's all about. Get out fishing and forget about all of the crap in the background. Dave, it's time to take us away. Peace. Love you all.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.